Wouldn't it be wonderful to live your life freely, just as you choose, in a peaceful world? Wouldn't it be wonderful if everyone could? Possible? Absolutely. This is exactly what the Live and Let Live movement proposes. And it's really so simple, so profound. Let's all agree the initiation of aggression by any person, group, or government should be prohibited. Force can only be justified in response to aggression. No matter what your religion, culture, ideology, or sexual orientation, you can live freely. The road to peace begins with tolerance, restraint, and civility. We each get to live our lives as we choose, so long as we allow others to do the same. Freedom, peace, prosperity, and the end of needless suffering result when we all decide to simply live and let live.
Okay, so this is one of several videos. I'm going to stand up here so you can see the short guy. This is, maybe we're going to have some feedback, I don't know. This is one of 3 sort of semi-professional videos that we have up on the Live and Let Live website, which is liveandletlive.org. I'm going to leave it up there. I'm going to ask each of you to go to that site. But why on earth are we doing this? What is this peace movement? Why are we doing anything different? Well, I think we just saw this panel, these people from Venezuela. There are consequences, really serious consequences, because of our failure to convince our fellow brothers and sisters of a freaking simple, obviously correct idea. How on earth have we failed over 50 freaking years to convince our fellow brothers and sisters of the most obvious thing? Don't be an aggressor. That's really our pitch. You know how we've messed this up? I'm going to plead guilty right here. I'm one of the reasons we've screwed this up. If you met me probably 10 years ago, and I've been talking about libertarian issues now for close to 30 years. It would have gone something like this. Hi, I'm Mark Victor. I think methamphetamine ought to be legal. What do you think of that? Or hi, I'm Mark Victor. Fuck the government. How do you like that? We need to destroy the government. Or taxes are robbery. They're not theft, they're robbery. That's what you would have heard from me. You know how that plays to our fellow brothers and sisters? You know how that, in this room, sure, it gets some claps, because you guys get it. You understand why I'm saying that. Do our neighbors understand this? No. They hear that and they say, this guy's an idiot. I'm done listening to the taxes are theft. Are you kidding me? A robbery? We don't need the government? Are you kidding me? And that's why we don't get anywhere. That's one of the many reasons we don't get anywhere. You know another reason we don't get anywhere? There's one thing that connects us together in this room. One thing. You know what it is? We agree on one principle. The non-aggression principle. And cheers to this conference, because it's been mentioned a few times. It should be mentioned all the time. I'm going to keep my remarks brief, because I want you to ask me questions. I want you to hear how I answer the questions. You're not going to get me to tell you how I feel about any issue without hearing about the non-aggression principle. Every single time. It's going to go like this. Hey, Mark, how do you feel about this issue? Well, you see, there's this one principle that I like, that I now call the Live and Let Live principle. Here's what it is, here's what it means, and now let me apply it to this issue. Okay, Mark, how do you feel about the next issue? Same answer. There's a principle. I want them rolling their eyes. If we don't communicate this principle, we have failed. That's the one reason we come out the way we come out on every single issue. I was asked to introduce Jo Jorgensen. Some of you may not know who she is. Fine woman, understands libertarianism really nicely. She was the libertarian presidential candidate in the last election in the United States. I was asked to introduce her, and I did. And she went up there, and it was a huge crowd. You know why? Because people didn't like Donald Trump, and people didn't like Joe Biden. And a lot of people thought, all right, who are these L's? I'll go listen to the L's and see what they're about. And she spoke for an hour and a half. And she went issue by issue by issue. But you know what she never mentioned once? You know what she never mentioned? People left there never having heard about the non-aggression principle. So they think like R's and D's. Okay, well, here's an issue. Yeah, I guess I like this issue. Here's an issue. I guess I like this issue. Or worse, we explain our philosophy by saying, all right, we're fiscally conservative and socially liberal. Anything to avoid talking about the one thing we need to be talking about. And then we say non-aggression principle, and their eyes glaze over. What the heck does that mean? Non-aggression? Does this mean we're pacifists? I can tell you people in Arizona don't like, the people in Arizona, they like guns. They hear non-aggression? Huh? Oh, that doesn't sound like it's for me. We've made huge mistakes. How is it possible that 50 years we, collectively we, have been talking, great people in our movement, brilliant people, just heard from one of them, who actually did mention the non-aggression principle. Good for him, a giant in our movement. We've been talking about this 50 years, and we're at the World Conference. And let me say, it's a great conference. But there's 70 people here from around the world. Are you kidding me? Do we want to stand around and sit around forever and talk amongst ourselves? Or do we want to get this done? I'm tired of talking about it. I want to get it done. We need to change how we're doing things. We need to talk about the issue. We need to lead with the principle. Let me tell you how I interact with people who I meet now. I'll give you an example. This happened to me in the gym not too long ago. I was on a machine and some other guy was on this machine. We started talking. Never met this guy before. As soon as the conversation drifted into anything political. I got this big wide net, right? You say anything at all, anywhere remotely close to a political issue, the on button turns on. You don't know what's coming. But I just, on this occasion, you know what I said to this guy? He said something about Trump or Biden or some issue. I just said, look, man, I'm just a live and let live kind of guy. How's that make you feel? I can tell you how it makes almost everybody feel. And the only reason I say almost everybody is because I haven't talked to everybody yet, but everybody I've talked to has given me some version of exactly the same response. Yeah, me too. I love live and let live. Who doesn't like living? Could you imagine the response otherwise? No, I hate live and let live. Okay, I got 60 seconds for this conversation. Which is the problem here, live or let live? Right? They don't say that. Imagine if I said non-aggression principle and they said, oh, I love that. Imagine how great a position we'd be in. The wind is at our back already. Dude loves live and let live. So I'm a criminal defense lawyer. I do cross-examination. I'm going to lock this dude in. Live and let live's good, huh? Oh, yeah. If we all lived and let live, life would be great, right? The world would be great, right? Yes. I'll lock them in. And then eventually we got to get to what the heck does it mean? This isn't so hard. So I said, hey, man, what do you think it means to live and let live? He says, I don't know. I say, let me give you a suggestion. If I'm hitting you over the head, am I acting in conformity with live and let live? What do you think the answer is? What do you think people say? Of course not. This is obvious, right? I'm hitting you over the head. Of course I'm not acting consistently with live and let live. I get that easy. No problem. All day long. You know how hard it is for me to go from that to, I don't know, maybe you shouldn't be an aggressor. 100% of the time, yeah. What's an aggressor? I don't know. Somebody who initiates force or fraud or coercion or puts other people at substantial risks of harm. Does this sound familiar to anybody in this room? I hope so. If it doesn't, you don't really know what libertarianism is about. You heard Walter Block yesterday if you were here. There's probably nobody on the planet better qualified to talk about what the heck is a libertarian. And he broke it down for you. There's a principle. It's called the non-aggression principle. No force, fraud, coercion, or don't do things that put other people or their property at substantial risks of harm. That's what it is. That's all it is. Okay, he threw in a theory of property. I agree. We got to figure out whose jacket it is. But this is easy. Most people already understand this concept. I own me, you own you. I don't have to spend a lot of time on that. But we got to lead with the principle. So once I get force, fraud, and coercion, which is easy and substantial risks, I got this guy in 2 seconds agreeing with the non-aggression principle, which I will now call the live and let live principle. By the way, this is so much easier to pitch, isn't it? Live and let live over non-aggression. We got to do a better job marketing our principle. We already know something that they don't know. This will fix the world. We're right about this. We can be arrogant about it. How much evidence do you need to see? You saw those 3 videos last night? I don't know, did that make it clear that if you just follow this principle, we can increase standards of living everywhere it's followed? Doesn't matter. Singapore, Hong Kong, North Korea, South Korea. How many examples do you need? We know we're right about this. If they knew what we know, they'd be on board with us. We don't need everybody. We don't need to get everybody. There's idiots in the world, right? Lots of them. Fine. They say the American Revolution was about 1/3 of the people. Another third were on the other side, third in the middle. They didn't care. They don't know. Tell me which flag to fly tomorrow. I don't think much has changed since then. We need about 1/3. We need more than we got now, but we don't need everybody. I'm not going to waste my time more than 60 seconds talking to somebody who doesn't agree with live and let live, to somebody who doesn't agree to not be an aggressor, to somebody who doesn't get force, fraud, coercion, and putting other people at substantial risks is aggression. That's easy. Where do I go from there? If you stop there, we lose. You know why? Because they'll say, well, that's good for you, but the government is different. Right? You guys have been through this. I don't know where did the Venezuela crew leave? Oh, that's too bad, because they asked the question earlier, how do we deliver the message? I'm telling you how to deliver the message right now. Once I get agreement on the live and let live principle, I need more than that. What's the very next thing I do? I push a very positive, encompassing, inclusive message. I say, don't you think this rule ought to apply to everybody? Fat, thin, rich, poor, black, white, wherever you were born, whatever language you speak, whatever foods you eat, it should apply to everybody, don't you think? This is easy. Next place I go is, well, what if we formed a little group? Me and you and this guy, should we be able to violate the rule then? This is easy. Almost everybody says, well, of course not. Why would we let our little group violate the live and let live principle? Why would we ever want that? Of course we don't. Well, now all I'm doing is moving them up the scale. And for our lefty friends, if I'm talking to a lefty, someone who hates corporations, no problem. I'm going to be tough on the corporation. This applies to small groups, right? Right. This applies to bigger groups too, don't you think, if the group is bigger? Yeah. Why would it change if the group is bigger? What about those corporations? We don't want to let those corporations get away with initiating force or fraud or coercion or doing things that put us at substantial risks, do we? Do you really think someone's going to say, no, I think it's okay for a corporation to do that? This isn't easy, especially if you're talking to one of our friends on the left. Yeah, our friends on the left. Don't think for a moment that everybody on the left is an enemy. These are people who don't understand something I haven't got to yet. Critically important distinction between a legal rule and a moral rule. I'm getting there. But right now I'm just walking my buddy in the gym through a real simple analysis that he can't disagree with. As soon as I get the agreement on corporations, then I simply say, well, what about the biggest groups of all, governments? What would be different about this? Don't you think? In fact, why would we ever want the government to initiate force or fraud or coercion or do things that put us at a substantial risk of harm or our property? This is pretty easy. If they've agreed to that, and by the way, nobody I have spoken to, not one person yet, has disagreed with that. Do you know what they just agreed to? If they agreed to that, all of you out there who call yourselves anarcho-capitalists, if you agree that the government doesn't get to violate the live and let live principle, you just agreed to the anarcho-capitalist position. You don't realize it yet because we haven't talked about any issues yet. If I led with the issues, the conversation's over before it already got started. But because I led with the principle, which is obvious and easy to understand, and I didn't say I was a libertarian, and this hurts my heart. I've been a libertarian a long time. I love libertarianism. But we did it to ourselves. We shot ourselves in the foot. We got people in our movement who have acted, let's just say, unprofessional, have done things that cause other people to say, oh yeah, I know those libertarians. I know what they're about. Puts us at a disadvantage, right? Let's start something new. They don't know about live and let live. I mean, people all over the world already love live and let live. So what do I do after I get them to agree that the government shouldn't violate the live and let live rule? Now I depart from libertarianism. Because everything I just said is everything libertarianism just says. End of discussion. Don't violate the non-aggression principle. It should apply to every person, every group, corporations, governments. That's libertarianism, folks. 100% of everything. Everything else is commentary. How does that rule apply to, say, the drug war? How does that rule apply to guns? How does that rule apply to taxes? But you know what I don't like about stopping there? I'm going to tell you what I don't like about stopping there. And you guys, if you've been libertarians for any period of time, you've been in this situation. Okay, Mark, here comes the question. What about that jerk of a restaurant owner who hates Jews? Guys like me. I'm not serving Jews in my restaurant. Hispanics, blacks, pick your group. This is a racist who owns a restaurant. What's our answer to that? We know what our answer is. Our answer is, well, yeah, true. If he's the restaurant owner, he gets to decide who comes in. But we go quickly to an economic argument, don't we? We like to talk economics. We say, well, look, this guy's probably not going to stay in business, right? Because I would never patronize the dude's restaurant. In fact, we could even organize, we could picket, we could do all of these things. But at the end of the day, yeah, he still gets to have his white supremacist restaurant. And that's all we can say as libertarians. If you say something more than that, you're speaking not as a libertarian, but as a good person. But when we leave it there, the reaction of most people, they don't like that. And I understand why they don't like that. We had a presentation earlier today talking about values. We got to have values. We need values in our movement. And that's okay, because live and let live is a peace movement, and libertarianism is a freedom movement. What's the difference? You get freedom when people comply with the NAP/3LP, 3LP, live and let live principle. You got freedom, but you damn sure don't get peace. We can hate each other. We can yell at each other. We can refuse to do business with each other. We can act like jerks, as long as we're peaceful, as long as we don't violate the principle. We're not at peace. If we're going to do it, let's do it right. Let's go for peace. If we got freedom, it would be the very next thing we would be talking about, is peace. Let's talk about it now. Let's go for the whole ball of wax. Peace is something in addition. Why do I raise this? Why is it critical to talk about peace? There are two reasons that I now will tell my friend in the gym about values. We have some aspirational values in our movement. Now, why do we do this? Well, number one, because we got to push them if we want to get to peace. And I don't feel bad. Let me tell you about the aspirational values. My guess is we're not going to get any disagreement. Open-mindedness, tolerance, voluntary kindness, civility, justice, a commitment to truth, in facts, in reason, and most importantly, the overall commitment to optimize human happiness while decreasing human suffering. I don't feel bad about any of those. And you know what? We're not going to lose any. Okay, we might lose the white supremacist, but I don't care about that. But I raise it so I can now say the next thing, which we got to say. If you want to pass a law that says everybody must be open-minded or tolerant or kind or even civilized, I would be against it. And they say, huh? You know why I would be against it? Because these are ethics rules. When I talk about the principle, what I'm talking about is how we want to align the law. That's what libertarianism is all about. It's only about changing the law. If you align the law tomorrow to be in complete conformity with the nonaggression principle in every way, libertarianism has accomplished its goal. We've had no occasion to talk about the difference between a moral rule and a legal rule. But now, since I'm talking about ethics and values, I got an opportunity to have this discussion. So I say, you got every right to act intolerant and closed-minded and unkind and uncivilized, so long as you don't violate the principle. Because those are legal rules. And legal rules are different than moral rules. Legal rules have formal consequences if you break them. That's why we got to be careful about what's part of the legal world. This is why we don't put our morality into the law. We got to get people to the point where they can say, you know, I think prostitution is immoral, but I definitely supported it being legal. You know, when somebody says that, they understand what we're talking about. But if we're not talking about moral rules, how on earth do we have an opportunity to distinguish moral rules and legal rules, right? It's critical that we talk about this. We're pushing aspiration. That's why we're calling them aspirational values. You're not required to follow. You can reject these. But I assure you, we're not going to lose anybody. We're not going to lose anybody we care about. I can tell you that. And what can we say to our friends on the left now? What can I say to the Bernie Sanders followers? Bernie Sanders, for some of you, probably you all know, but let's just take your typical good-hearted socialist, your bleeding heart liberal. You know what they're going to say. What about the less fortunate? What about those poor people? What does the libertarian say? Well, sorry, we can't break the rule and tax people and give them money. We can't do that. That violates the rule. Okay, that leaves them again with that face, right? What can the live and let liver say? The live and let liver can say, yes, I'm also equally concerned about people less fortunate than us. Yes, I'm equally concerned about people who don't have access to health care and people who don't have access to a good education or clean water. Pick your poison there. I'm concerned. I join you. I share your morality. The only difference between us, small difference, sort of, the only difference between us, I see that as an ethics question. You're trying to make this a legal question. It's not a legal question. It's an ethics question. And the reason we pull our morality out of the law is so we can get to peace and freedom. Think about this for a moment. What would we say when, say, and I'm just going to pick one here, say the Muslim says, you know what? I like Sharia law, and I want to change the law so women have to wear headscarves. What do you think about that? We only have two choices. Choice number one, which is our current position. Sorry, our morality is better than your morality, is in essence what we're saying, right? We're saying, I got ethics questions and I'm happy to put them into the law, but I don't agree with your morality and I don't want to put your morality into the law. What does this set up? An endless struggle between everybody, trying to put their morality into the law and force everybody else to make everybody else comply with their ethical determinations. That's where we are right now. Or we could take a different path. Choice two. We can say, look, we've agreed, your morality about headscarves may be very nice. I don't know. I'm not taking a position on it. I don't know. But what we've agreed, for the sake of achieving a free and peaceful world, is to pull all of our morality out of the law. All of it. Even the morality we agree with. To my left, bleeding heart liberal friend, I say, look, I agree with you, but we can't put it in the law. Otherwise, we're in an endless fight with everybody else. Let's agree to take it out of the law, but let's push voluntary kindness. Let's make it happen. There's enough of us. Let's donate to those less fortunate. Let's help our brothers and sisters. Damn it, we're all on the planet for such a short time. What on earth are we doing? Tearing each other apart because of stupid stuff like the color of our skin or what language you speak or foods or where you were born. It's 2021. We got to get past this, and we should be the ones leading the way. We should. The live and let live crowd. We got something brand new, sort of. Brand new, sort of, that we want to present to you. And now let me tell you some things we do not argue about. This is going to shock you. Let me tell you what I don't argue about as a live and let liver. Hey, Mark, are you for capitalism or socialism? Oh, I answer that the same way I answer everything else. See, I got this principle. It's the live and let live principle. Do whatever you want. Just don't violate that principle. There ain't another thing I need to say about capitalism or socialism. Why? Well, let's look at it. Free market capitalism, the kind we love. Does that violate the rule? No problem. Crony capitalism, like we just talked about. Does that violate the rule? Okay, I mean, giving money to some politician who then changes the law to forcefully advantage one group over another? Yeah. Why am I against that? I'm only against it for one reason. At least one reason that I state. It violates the rule. That's all. Socialism. Oh my God. What do I say to my socialist friends? I got no beef with socialism. You want to be socialist? No problem. Have fun. You can be anything you want. Just don't violate the rule. The rule you agreed on. Because I can damn sure guarantee you that if I'm at this point in the conversation, I have already won agreement on the principle. Because I don't move to any issues until I get agreement on the principle. So I say, you know, the principle you just agreed to, do whatever you want, don't violate that principle. So let's talk about socialism. I say, look, you guys want to pool your resources together in a big pile and pay bills out of that pile, whatever bills you want? Does this violate the rule? Anybody see a violation of the rule here? Okay, the answer is no. No violation. Voluntary socialism, no problem. We have examples of this, right? There's the kibbutz in Israel. As somebody pointed out, I think yesterday, there's the family. Socialism's okay. No problem. Violations of the rule are bad. Oh, that other kind of socialism, the kind where we agree to put our money in a general pool and pay it out of that pool, and then we drag people who don't want to be in the pool into the pool? Well, we're against that. Why are we against that? I'm not against that because of any economic arguments. I'm not making the case about, curves or economic this or that, or showing you how the GDP is in Singapore and Hong Kong. I'm not making any of those arguments. Even though I buy into all of them, I'm saying something simple, something they can understand. The reason I'm against that, it violates the rule. And that's all I got to say about it. There is nothing else I need to actually say about it. Hey, Mark, are you for big government, small government, no government? Are you an anarchist or a minarchist? Don't care about that either. Did I just say that? Don't care. You want a big government? No problem. You want no government? No problem. Lots of little governments, I don't care. Whatever you want, just don't violate the rule. Do I need to say anything more? I challenge you. The anarchists among us especially. What else do I need to say? This is really simple. I could present this to even a typical American jury could understand this. Okay, I got one chuckle over here somewhere. People can understand this once they get the principle and it makes sense to them. They get it. They understand. We're pushing values. I can lead with the values. I can start from, hey guys, my name's Marc. Hey, let me tell you about this new global peace movement I'm a part of. It's called Live and Let Live. How do you like that? They're going to put their fist in the air and say, yeah, I love Live and Let Live. And by the way, some people will understand it at that level only. That's okay. In fact, probably most people will stop right there. I love Live and Let Live. Hell yeah, sign me up. Sounds great. They don't need any more than that. That's fine. Come to our team. We need bodies on our team. Why do we need bodies on our team? Let me break it down to you, folks. There's one rule of the world that's been a constant the whole time. The person with the biggest gun makes the rule. That's the rule. That's been the rule. That's the rule right now, and that will continue to be the rule. Whoever gets the biggest gun, and what I mean by that is who can impose themselves on other people. I hate to say it like this, but that's what we need to do. We need to have the biggest gun. We need to have the most people. We need to say, you know what? We're making the rules now. Don't feel sad about it, because the rules we're going to make are really good. But you don't have an option to say no. Understand what the libertarian position is and has always been. We are going to impose libertarianism on you whether you like it or not. Now, I know we don't like to hear it like that, but I could introduce you to some of my clients over the past almost 30 years. They don't agree with the rule. They do things like take guns and put them in people's faces and say, give me your money. I could tell him about the rule. I could say, hey man, there's this rule, the Nonaggression principle. You know what he's going to say? I never agreed to that rule. I don't care about that rule. You know what we say back to him? Sorry, we don't even seek your agreement on this. We impose the principle on you, whether you like it or not. That's the rule. And let me say, I don't feel the least bit bad. I don't, and neither should you. What am I saying? I'm telling people who would be aggressors that we're not going to put up with you. Sorry, I don't need your agreement on this. We got to get more people on our side. Do we want some trickery? Do we want to sneak Ron Paul into office or something? That's not going to work. Something snappy, catchy, cute little song or something, not going to work. History of the world, you got to change hearts and minds. There is no other way to make it happen. We got to change hearts and minds. We got to change more of them. Why aren't we focusing on this? I think we should be focusing on this. This is why we're kicking off we haven't even kicked it off yet. Why am I here talking to libertarians? This isn't going to happen because I'm convincing libertarians to recalibrate the name of the non-aggression principle to the live and let live principle and add some values. That's not how we're going to get this done. We got to reach all of those people who we have failed to reach to this point. We got to reach them with a simple message, something they already happen to agree with, by the way. And we can do this if we keep it simple, if we change our language a little bit, if we don't argue about the size of government, we don't argue about capitalism or socialism. There's a few other things I don't argue about. Hey, Marc, what's the basis to get to the principle? Is it a natural rights argument? Is it an objectivist argument? Is it because the Lord said? Is it a contractarian argument? You know my position on that? Don't care. Don't care. Just get to live and let live. How you got to live and let live, that's your business. That'll be fun to talk about those kinds of things at conferences like this. You know how I tell you my answer? Hey, Marc, how do you get to live and let live? You know what my answer, my first answer is? Duh. If you can't figure out it's wrong to be an aggressor, something's wrong with you in your head. This is obvious. I shouldn't need a big fancy argument to convince you that being an aggressor is wrong. As long as I present the case properly. We need to present the case properly. I don't argue about how to get there. We shouldn't be arguing about lots of things we love to argue about. Little implementation questions on the ground. How would we determine whether there's a substantial risk in this kind of situation or that kind of situation? All right, this stuff has got to be worked out. You know how we address it in our movement? Local communities will decide. We were talking at lunch about some hard issues. Tuan and I were doing our favorite game. Game I like with Walter too. If you've been a libertarian a long time, this is probably one of your favorite games. What are the hard issues, the tough ones? We talked about animal rights and circumcision and the rights of minors and abortion, lots of the tough questions upon which reasonable libertarians can and do disagree. Why on earth are we at each other's throats on these issues while we haven't even convinced the vast majority of our brothers and sisters around the world of the obvious, simple point to not be an aggressor? So how do we deal with that? Local communities will figure that out. Piece of cake. How am I doing on time?
If you want, we can stop now for 10 minutes for questions.
Okay, I'm going to wrap it up because I definitely want questions from you guys if you have questions. Let me just finish by saying this. The movement is not yet kicked off. We don't kick it off until March of 23. Why? It needs to be world class. I'm not doing this for the fun of it. I'm doing this to change the world, and I need your help. I'm talking to libertarians because I need your help. We need to get some momentum going on this project. We need chapters in different parts of the world. It's not a big deal to run a chapter. Sign up, you're a chapter. Have a group meeting once a month. I'll zoom in if you want to run it. We're going to do coordinated things. We got plans for conferences. Once a month, we want to do a conference in a different nation. We're going to push a new holiday, a live and let live day, international. Let's celebrate this together. Let's celebrate life and be positive and celebrate the fact that we're all here on the planet Earth for such a short time that we get to know each other at all is unbelievable. Why aren't we just embracing and loving life and celebrating our differences? So on Live and Let Live Day, go out and live. Take a picture of yourself doing something fun. Send it in and we'll put it up on the Live and Let Live site. Celebrating International Live and Let Live Day 2023. There's plenty of time. Make this your movement. Be a founder of this movement. If you're in this, you're probably here from a country we don't yet have a chapter. Be the chapter leader in your country. Not a big deal. Just reach out, tell me you want to do this. I'm writing a book. It's a fairly simple book. It's for the person who wants the deep dive, little bit deeper dive. The hey Marc, how would it work? The book, I'll tell you how it's organized. I lay out the principle. I lay out the difference between a legal rule and a moral rule. I deal with objections. There's one objection. Look, you might just be an unreasonable asshole. Fine, you're not part of our movement. Move on. There are unreasonable people in the world. And then I do a parade of issues. Every issue I can think of. And you know, now that they understand the principle, this is easy. To talk about taxation now is about one paragraph. I don't know. If you take somebody's money without their consent, does that violate the rule? Duh. And then I spend several paragraphs explaining that it's okay. We'll still get what we want. All the things we've been talking about all these years. The world will still work just fine. They need to understand it. These issues are all the same question. All right, so I'm going to leave it there. But again, I'm inviting you to get involved in this movement. By the way, we're also doing a podcast called Peace Radicals. You can check it out at liveandletlive.org or anywhere you get podcasts. If you want to be a guest on Peace Radicals, just let me know. If you got a podcast and you want someone from the world's only real peace movement, the world's only real peace movement. I can't wait for somebody to challenge me on that. Oh, you're a peace movement? Oh, you allow aggression? Great, let's talk about that. All right, go.
At 6:15 p.m. when the
Oh, yeah.
The people who are interested in the movement can meet with you here.
6:15 p.m. If you want to talk a little bit more about Live and Let Live, I'm going to come down to this room. We can have a little hangout. We can talk about it some more. There's a lot more to talk about, but we need some help. Be part of the solution. Stop crabbing about what we haven't accomplished. Let's be part of the solution and actually make it happen in our lifetime. Thank you very much, and I'll take some questions. Do I just pick, how about Kyle back there?
Thank you for the talk, I enjoyed it. I'd like to challenge you on a point you made. You brought up the situation of an anti-Semitic restaurant owner.
Yes.
I would submit to you that a free society cannot really exist in a healthier, functional way if that society doesn't take action against the anti-Semitic restaurant owner. Because this is an attempt, essentially a private attempt, to engage in economic oppression of a marginalized group of people. And so what I would submit to you is that if we want to have a live and let live society, we also have to have a society that voluntarily and spontaneously acts very forcefully against these attempted efforts to impose private forms of oppression. And so what I would say is that it's a moral imperative that the restaurant owner be boycotted, and in fact that pressure be exerted on those who would continue to still do business with them. And I would say that if you don't recognize and promote that part of a free society, those kind of guardrails of a free society that are exercised and built by free people voluntarily outside of the state, I don't know that you can credibly make any kinds of arguments for a free society.
Thanks so much for asking that question. I want to tell you how my brain was working as you were asking the question. What's going on in my brain is he suggesting legal action against this guy forcefully, or is he saying it's a moral question? The second you said it's a moral imperative, hell yeah, it's a moral imperative. We in the Live and Let Live movement are pushing open-mindedness, kindness, tolerance. The white supremacist restaurant owner, he ain't part of our movement, I can guarantee. He might be a good libertarian. He's part of the libertarian movement, great. What do we say about him? He has every right to do what he wants to do legally. Morally, we're all over this guy. He is not part of our movement. This is what's been missing from libertarianism. Values. Thank you for that question. Next question. Oh, I'm sorry, I don't have the mic. You go after. Maybe you're up next.
From Russia, I agree with the principle you mentioned. That's what makes us libertarians. My only question is, what are we going to do if not left alone? I understand the benefits of initiating force against you. I get your money, your house, maybe your country. What are the benefits of leaving you alone? If I'm in power, you're not a threat, you're a cattle. When was the last time libertarians actually stood up for anything? You're a libertarian, you understand how economy and incentives work. You ask to be left alone, and my question to you is, or what?
Okay, well, the answer back is we don't have the biggest gun right now. I pay my taxes. I don't want to pay my taxes. But the reason I pay my taxes is because I know what happens if I don't. I've represented many people who have said, you know what, I ain't paying my taxes. They get hauled in. Eventually somebody with a gun shows up at your door and takes you away and takes all your money and seizes your account. So yeah, you put your finger on the problem. We'd love to be left alone. If they left us alone, we'd be great. That'd be the end. But people who don't agree with our principle are violating the principle. On the day that we can stop them, we will. Until we can stop them, your choices are as follows. Comply or don't comply and take the risk that they're going to catch you not complying. That's where we're at right now. Next question.
I question how many people really do embrace the whole concept of live and let live. Number one, there's the Lockean concept of tacit consent, which I think is just a blank check. Number two, look at how many Americans voluntarily choose to live in a fascist government, which is called a homeowners association. And number three, a lot of people will say, well, I'm for live and let live, but. So there's this one exception where there suddenly has to be, and we see a lot of that. So I'd like you to address those issues.
All good questions. As far as the homeowners association, too bad. Don't live there. This is a voluntary agreement between people. I don't care what the rules are. If you want to move in and they tell you what the rules are, and this is an agreement between people up front, no problem with the real agreement from a homeowners association. You don't like them, you call them fascist, maybe some of them are, maybe a lot of them are, don't live there. I mean, people have a right to voluntarily agree to live in fascist ways. If you don't believe me when I say most people agree with live and let live, do not take my word for it. I challenge all of you to test market this, please, the next time. But you gotta need to sell it a little bit. If you just say, hey, I'm for live and let live, and then you talk about legalized meth, you're not going to be successful. You need to lay it out exactly you have your own style, right? But you have to not just state what live and let live is and get the agreement there. I can tell you 100% of the people I've raised this with have said, hell yeah, live and let live is already a saying in many different languages around the world. It's a very popular phrase. If everybody right now who just says I agree with live and let live actually did, we'd already be there. So test market this yourself, but don't stop at, yes, I agree. You gotta explain what it means, which isn't so hard. All we need is don't be an aggressor. I always start with don't hit people over the head. And I usually motion like this as I'm doing it so they can get a feel of what it means to be an aggressor. But practice this yourself. Even if you do find somebody who doesn't agree, remember, we need about a third. I assure you, you'll get at least a third. Other questions? Oh, one in the back.
Mark, thank you so much for this. I so like your message. I have a question about how you choose your presentation style. I can imagine using a very strident one like you used with us today, or something more gentle and congenial, collegial. I personally would find a more collegial approach more engaging. And I don't know if I'm in the minority or majority here, but in general, how do you assess your audience to decide what style you use for presenting these really good ideas? Thank you.
Okay, excellent question. I think the audience is super important. This is an audience of libertarians. I assume a couple of things. Number one, you know what the non-aggression principle is. Number two, you accept it and agree with it. Number three, you've been talking about it for a while. Number four, you're pissed off that there's 70 people in this room at a World Liberty International Conference. I need and we need people who have different styles. I spent 6 years in the United States Marine Corps. I'm a frickin' warrior. I'm a bulldog. You unleash me, I'm gonna make the argument. I like the debates format the best. Maybe I'm not best suited to be out there in the gentle style, but there's a lot of people in this room who could really make the pitch and strike a different chord. I'll take it as a valid criticism because I think that, and by the way, you are not, Dr. Rick Fisher sitting back there, he's been telling me this for 30 years. I got a certain style. Some people like it, some people don't. You'd be an excellent candidate to bring exactly the tone that we need. I've seen you speak. I saw your speech. You've been asking questions through this conference. I'm going to invite you to be a spokesperson up there in California to push live and let live. Bring your approach. Bring your style. Please. Other questions?
That's it.
All right, so 6:30, I'll be here if you're interested. Let's talk, let's make a plan. We're taking over the world. Let's get it done.
Yes, thank you so much.